So I just had to check my privilege there, and then I was. We were back to doing hamstring curls.
One of the few people I could take my shirt off next to and look better than. And he has his shirt off a lot. Anyway, we digress.
Italy have been the whipping boys of
100%,
the Six Nations for so
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
And now that Wales is currently going, imagine they're like, okay, now you're relegated.
Regardless of your experiences, this is what I'm currently dealing with.
I'm not going to join the fantasy league, but I will just drive my car through the streets of Berlin and just throw 40 euros out the window at some point.
If Scotland finish fourth in the Six Nations, fourth or fifth, is there pressure on Townsend?
Bench Opinions. 3 idiots with amateur analysis.
Are we starting?
No, we're starting. You've started.
I don't even know what episode we're at, like 24?
26.
26?
26.
Bench Opinions to episode 26. Welcome back to you, to our fans, the millions out there listening,
Yeah.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
to the millions that are not listening yet. Please have a look at our socials, like it if you like it, subscribe even if you don't like it, and send it to your grandmother and grandfather because
They're our main demographic.
they're our main demographic and they won't know what's happening anyway, so maybe they'll let it play the whole way through.
Nice.
Just need them to let it get past like 3 minutes, bro. It counts as a play.
Algorithm works in our
Just,
favor then.
yeah.
People at work keep asking me how my podcast is going, and I'm like, well, clearly it's not going fantastically. I'm still here.
Also, if they would watch it, they would know.
Yeah, but a few of them did offer to watch it. Then I was like, it's in English, and we talk a lot about rugby, and they were like, "Oi."
No, but they must watch the first 20 minutes where we talk about all sorts of nonsense.
Maybe I don't want them to listen to that.
Oh, okay. Because
What is
maybe
your
some of it is
observation?
about
Well, I got
them.
this one colleague who's an absolute twat.
His name is.
XYZ.
I don't know why my colleagues aren't. They did watch for a while.
Somehow no one's talking to me at work anymore.
It's like you got like a hit list of people that you're taking out through the podcast.
I talking about colleagues. I worked out with a personal trainer this morning.
With a Rhodesian.
Yeah,
Last.
he's from.
This is because of the movie that you suggested.
So he's
fair enough.
a dude that I met on Saturday wearing a Springbok shirt, and he came up to me and he says he's born in Zim, but he grew up in Durban. And he's a personal trainer, and I don't know if I've ever come this close to throwing up
Oh, really?
at the gym.
Talk us through it. What was different
It
to your
was-
usual routine?
And there's just a lot more intensity, like a lot of weights, a lot of reps, and we did a warm up, and I was already crawling on the floor. I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And then he went on like a whole tangent about how your mind is your body is fine. It's your mind that needs to continue going. I was like, no, dude,
This is when I say, you don't know my fucking mind, bro.
my body is broken.
You don't know my mind?
But then we were talking about his workout schedule and when he does classes, because he gives classes. And I was like, yeah, I'll come. And then he was like, yeah, the one is at 7:30 at night. I was like, dude, I don't know if I can come to a class at 7:30 at night because I can't get my pulse down by the time I go to bed, and then I don't sleep well. And then he hit me with, yeah, I grew up in Durban on the streets for a long time when I was a child, so I don't have a real relationship to sleep anymore. And then I was like, oh, well,
Yo.
No, man.
that's
That's heavy.
Then I was like, yeah, I still can't really get my pulse down.
Regardless of your experiences, this is what I'm currently
And
dealing
how
with.
does this help me when I struggle to sleep at night?
Yeah, I know. Listen, so I just had to check my privilege there, and then I was. We were back to doing hamstring curls.
But nice guy?
Very nice guy.
Nice.
Been through a lot, clearly.
Yeah, been through a lot. Very successful here, a go-getter, but it's because his mind is stronger than his body.
Fair
Mine
enough.
is not.
And he doesn't need to sleep much because
And he
he
can
doesn't
get his
sleep
pulse
anyway.
down as well at night.
He says he can work on 4 hours of sleep.
Okay. I mean, I can work on 4 hours of sleep. I'd be fucking miserable. And I don't think anyone would want to be around me. And I don't know what that would do for my career and life, but I could do it.
Yeah, but I think there's plenty of studies out there that say if you like continuously only sleep 4 hours, I think it like
There's also a lot of
Does
guys
something
on,
to
but
you.
there's a lot of guys on Instagram that tell you that if you sleep more than 5 hours, you're a failure. So
true. And if you don't own a Lamborghini by the time you're 35, you're a failure.
exactly.
I'm surprised that as a personal trainer, he only sleeps 4 hours because don't they always say in terms of muscle regeneration, you should sleep a lot?
I don't know. I don't know how he does it. Maybe he was also exaggerating, but it was intense.
Maybe he takes
My
long
legs are
naps.
really, really tired now. I also got the shivers halfway through the day because I think my body is so exhausted. So I'm done for the week.
Nice. That sounds not very pleasant, to be
It was
honest.
on my weekly observations though. So
I don't know if I'm ever going to be joining you on that.
I've already introduced you to him. So
Oh, God.
next time you're in it. Dom, hit us with your observation of the week.
So we went to a concert last night. Very good. Circa Waves. Nice guy. Had the privilege of meeting them and then just hanging out backstage as well afterwards. Shout out to, they don't watch this, but shout out to them. They're very into golf. They're very into golf as well. So
Very into
very
golf.
cool. Nice, because I often feel like within the music industry, I'm one of the few outliers. When I tell people I play golf, they're like, what are you doing? Yeah, it was pretty cool to find someone that to connect on that level with.
You and Wiz Khalifa.
Oh yeah. Oh no, you mean
Not Wiz Khalifa.
DJ
Khaled.
Whew, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it. One of the few people I could take my shirt off next to and look better than, and he has his shirt off a lot. Anyway, we digress. We were. So the first band played and it was all good, and then we moved a little bit further forward, and then Circa Waves came on, and then there was this group of very, very wild, over the top young female fans, but like wild, dancing and shrieking and like going wild, right? To the point where this guy just at some point violently turns around, walks straight past me, and he's done. He's done. And his girlfriend comes past him. She's like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "I can't do it. I can't do it. All I hear is them." She keeps elbowing me in the side. I can't do it. I can't do it. She's like, "Yeah, that's right." Anyway, and then he stood behind me and we enjoyed the concert. And I watched them for a lot of the concert, and just insufferable.
The girls.
Insufferable. And it's like, I think people forget it's a shared experience. Okay. But then also I was like, you know what, Dom, you're relatively cynical, actually more than relatively, very cynical. Don't be such a fucking party pooper. Don't be such an old guy. Let people do their thing. And then as a part of my process of self-reflection, I was looking for some analogies in life, right? As to what does this compare to try and like rationalize it for myself. And I wanted to ask you guys if you can come up with some, but the best one I came up with is you're excited to be at the golf course and you go down the first fairway and it runs parallel to say the 15th fairway. And you hit your tee shot and you hit a nice second shot into the first green and you see a ball lying over on the other side of the fairway and you're so fucking excited. You walk over to that other ball, you get an iron out and you hit the approach shot with that other ball, but it's not your ball. And when the person comes over and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" You go, "I'm just so excited to be here. This is I'm a big fan. I love this."
I didn't know where you were going with that analogy.
I also didn't know he was going.
And yeah.
That was quite the journey, Dom.
It was a journey, but that's the one sort of comparison. And I was like, that would be fucking fucked up. And so that's my observation is, I can't believe people go to something like a concert and like jump and stuff, but literally it was like a dance, like a circle at a white person's wedding where people then take chances to dance, like
Dance in the middle.
like a dancing. That's what had formed around these women because they were so insufferable.
They had literally created their own little mosh pit, and there was just the three of them just absolutely taking over the middle of the dance floor.
So I get what you mean, and it links quite well to my observation. But before that, I think when you're not the one going through it, you're probably looking at that and saying, "What assholes." But I think sometimes we're those people.
Could be. This is true. Yes, that's true. I think in a bar watching sport, I could be that person. But I also think
That person.
when you've called the ref a C word for the fucking seventh time.
Yeah.
Or when you found some New Zealand lady,
Oh, shit.
40 years old.
Both
who's watching you.
of those examples are not my fault, though. That's the first thing.
And that's exactly what we're getting at.
No, because the people that have come to the concert have done nothing to those people next to whom they stand. So that's my point. It's. I think there's always cause and reaction to a certain degree, but I think to like for 90 minutes, like completely throw out the window that anyone else is around you trying to enjoy the experience with you, regardless of what happens on stage or anything.
Well,
I think it's a bit like, as Martin would say, swag.
So maybe I'll link to it because
Go
my
for it.
observation links to that, because I was the public transport here was striking today, so people had to try and make their own way to and from work, and I was on one of those Lime scooters, and we got to an intersection. There's a lot of bikes in front, and some dude from the back just sort of passed on the right, which obviously in Germany you don't do. Just went to the front, went over a red light, and then cycled away. And the guy at the front of the bicycle line was so upset by this that he started hot pursuit after this dude. And he
been
was
chased.
shouting. And me on my fucking zoom scooter, I was like, I need to fucking check this out too. And we got to the next intersection. This guy was berating him why he's overtaking on the right, and we've all got somewhere to be. And I just thought to myself, where's the line of standing up for yourself and saying when you don't like something, and just sort of, and the other side being like, oh, you know what, I don't really give a shit. And it ties into what because I think you could have decided from the beginning, this is not going to bother me. Or you could have gone to them and been like, excuse me, ladies, tone it down.
No, correction though. It didn't bother me at all. Like I didn't.
How much of the concert did you spend
Oh
thinking
no,
about?
not. I was watching the whole concert the whole time, but it was, as this segment says, an observation.
Okay.
And it probably would have completely slipped my mind had this guy not walked past me and been clearly upset that they were behaving the way they're behaving. I think I would have just gone. Probably would have quickly just said after the show those chicks were quite intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a tricky thing to dance on. I think. Yeah, I just don't know I don't think you're gonna cause this person to change though by chasing him after your.
I usually I sway too much on the side of just let things happen to me, and inside I'm actually quite upset.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of people here in Germany are sort of see something, say something.
Yeah.
If something bothers you, you immediately tell them that it's bothering you. And I wonder where that fine line is in the middle.
So the thing with Dominic's observation is, as Dominic was saying, it was the other guy who was upset about it, and generally, like, it's not really doing anything except for like making it a little bit inconvenient. Whereas like the stuff that you're describing, I mean, not necessarily that particular moment, but that kind of stuff, it often leads to like risky maneuvers that could cause people to like fall over or get into an accident. I mean, I've been knocked by a bicycle because they were overtaking on the pedestrian lane to get around, also overtaking on the right. So
A risky maneuver.
a risky maneuver. So in that regard, I can understand somebody get upset about it and saying like, well, this is
I
actually,
couldn't understand it because I was just like,
I mean, I wouldn't do it myself
but you know what?
because I just accept double standards.
Do you know what? It's also it's very similar to I get being stuck in traffic, you know, and things sometimes when if we were to live in Joburg still, that morning traffic commute shit can get on your nerves, and you're in your car, you're swearing, and then you get to work, you're already fucking cut full.
Yeah. Your blood, your pulses up here.
But I was saying it today. I think the problem on a day like today is just general hostility because everyone would have been more annoyed because there was more people on bikes, more people on scooters, more people on the road. I felt today driving around as well that there was definitely, I mean, even on the way here, I said to Maxi that you can feel that people are just really annoyed that everything is so over congested. I just don't know how you're gonna, because in the case of that person, it's like a combination of selfishness, I guess. You know, they're just selfish because it's all about what they need to do and where they need to get to, which could lean to like bad parenting, you know, or a bad they've been raised badly, and I don't know if you're gonna reverse being raised badly in a moment.
Are you going to chase after this like 50-year-old man and say your parents raised
No,
you
but that's
wrong?
what I'm saying. Like, so that's the problem. I'm like, the thing is, most of the time I'd be like, okay, it's a means to an end, but he's gonna look at you, call you a fucking idiot probably, and then do it at the next intersection as well. So I think that's the thing, you know?
That is the thing. It's like, you're going to get more annoyed and frustrated through that interaction than actually benefiting the situation.
No, I know what you mean.
But if you also just let it all go into disarray, then at the same time,
sometimes
it's
you're just
also like,
swallowing
well,
way too much frustration. Anyways.
Yeah, it's true.
That's why I tell people at the bar, New Zealanders or the referee, what I think about them.
And it does nothing.
No, I've always feel quite.
Yeah, you feel fine in that moment.
And they leave, so
There you go. Look at that.
I mean,
But yeah,
this
I'm
is
not
a
going to
reason-
get on a bicycle though to do it.
This is a reason, like, I'd prefer not to cycle, like in commuting, because I find it just too
it's
frustrating.
too stressful.
It's too frustrating, man.
Yeah.
But the poor cyclists,
We need
they
to
have it so
protect them.
hard.
Yeah. Because when they go over a red light, then they get smashed. Poor
Right,
guys.
Klaus, on that lovely spring note, just
Well, my observations actually also got to do with the strike today, but different angle. And I was just thinking about how often people strike, and especially like services like public transport and stuff like that. I'm fascinated by the amount of raise they always want to get because it wasn't 2 years ago, 1 year ago, something like that, where the Deutsche Bahn were asking to get paid the same amount as airplane pilots.
I think that was longer ago because you've been telling that story for a while.
No, it was when I was here with my mom when I hadn't moved here yet. I think I was like 19, 20 years old, and train drivers had said, well, why do we essentially do the same thing as pilots do?
Yeah.
But they do sometimes ask for like insane raises,
Yeah.
like percentage-wise.
And I mean, we're talking about massive corporations that have tariff contracts and stuff like that. So there's all these different things in place to make sure that people are getting normal raises all the time. But I often think to myself, if I'm in a job, okay, I'm not employed, but if I were in a job and I'm not happy with the raise I want, then I would either go and talk to somebody to see like what my options are in terms of going up the career ladder. If that's not going to work for me, then I'll have to find a new job. Whereas I feel like with a lot of these jobs, a lot of people just sit there and go like, I want to continue doing this job. I don't want to take...
Klaus's theory is if you don't like it, leave.
Well, no, that's not what I said.
But what ladder is a tram driver going to climb?
No, but you can go from there. You can go into
ride the S-Bahn
into administrative.
okay.
You can then... There are ways
Maybe
of...
they
it,
put
like,
another carriage on the back of your tram and you just you have more responsibility.
But it's just generally, it's like, well, I don't want to change my job. I just want to have more money. I want to do the exact same thing for the exact same amount of hours, but I want more money.
But as the Germans say, alles wird teurer, bro. And that's the problem.
Yeah, but then do more.
Yeah, but...
This is the new segment called Bench Opinions, Politics.
Political and financial analysis. I'm not 100% with you because I do the same things at work as well, and every year I want more money. Sometimes I even do less.
Okay, well, then I've got a problem with you as well.
Yeah, listen.
But it did as a South African, where we kind of joke about the amount of strikes there are and like how much that is the thing in South Africa. When you live here, it shocked me how many strikes there are as well. It does seem all very fucking structured and sterile, though. You know, everyone bring a whistle, everyone bring a high visibility jacket.
They don't strike. They don't actually
They
go
don't
and
protest.
They don't protest.
Today they did.
Did they?
Oh,
They
did they
were in
protest?
front of the building, and the journalists. I read like a piece about it, and the journalist seemed to be quite upset that they were playing AC/DC and like music at this
Highway
thing.
to Hell.
Like, I don't know what. It's not someone's fucking memorial service. Let them play whatever they want, you know. But then literally the description was whistles, high visibility jackets, and a lady on the back of a truck with a microphone, and that's essentially a German protest.
Yeah.
And nothing burnt down, which I feel like you're just not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. something needs to be on fire.
Let's honestly, like, maybe we should, talking about doing more to earn more, we start like a strike consultation business here in Germany.
I don't think you should consult him. You'll be like, just leave your job.
I was like,
You and me,
guys,
Maxi.
find a new job.
Molotov cocktails, that's module 1.
Klaus is a capitalist pig. All right. On that note,
That is very rich coming from you.
should we go into some sports?
Please.
The great love of a capitalist man with too much time on his hand. Sports.
On the rugby front, big tournament of the Six Nations. I think let's start off with the game for the wooden spoon, essentially. Italy versus Wales. It's a bit hard to say that now because maybe Italy doesn't even get maybe Italy isn't even in contention for the wooden spoon. Could be someone else. Wales definitely is. So what did you see? What did you like? What did you not like?
Well, I mean, Italy, it was at home and a home game for Italy, and they came out firing on all cylinders, and Wales managed to then fight back at the end. But Wales is not, I mean, if they can't beat Italy, this is not really another
Italy
team.
Really isn't that bad anymore.
But if you take Italy and compare them to Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and France,
For sure.
they are still the weaker team. They're not the whipping boys they used to be. But if Wales can't do it against Italy, I don't see them winning against anybody else.
I think that outside of the game itself, the bigger problem for Wales in the context is that Georgia have now overtaken them in the world rankings. And there's now serious calls for, hey, you know, we've had this Georgia conversation about Georgia joining the Six Nations for a long time. Shouldn't relegation kind of happen? Whatever. I mean, it's all hypothetical, of course. But I just think to myself, if that happens, I'm like, Welsh
That would
rugby.
be so unfair,
Welsh
because-
rugby. That's going to be a dagger to the heart of Welsh rugby.
Italy have been the whipping
Yeah,
boys of
100%, yeah.
the Six Nations for so
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
And now that Wales is currently going, imagine they're like, okay, now you're relegated.
But I think it's just the classic example of journalists in the UK. I think it's as soon as they smell blood, they go after it. And I don't know. I asked the question last week, where to for Wales rugby now?
Well, I think I said this, I don't know if it said last week or the week before. Wales need to schedule games against the teams around them.
Yeah.
Stop scheduling games against France, South Africa. Okay, so France is the Six Nations, but like against your South Africas, Australias, New Zealand, and Argentinas. Schedule games that you can win for your players to develop, to gain confidence.
You
Because
play against Georgia so that they're not
Monetas
play
is
against
the problem. though.
Berlin, what do they call here?
The
The
Berlin
Oku
Bears.
clothesline Danny boy there.
Berlin Irish.
Yeah. No, I know it's about money,
Yeah.
but you need to gain confidence, because the longer this losing streak goes on, the worse it gets. Monkey on your back, you become the Proteas of rugby.
I think that monkey has already stapled himself to the back. He's
But a
not
few of
coming
the
off.
few of the Welsh pundits have also said, "Listen, you can change a coach, but it's not gonna change anything, because there's no one really out there,
It's a
and-
systemic problem that Wales has. It's
Yeah.
not just a
and they
coaching
just
problem.
they just have to go through it." How many times do you think the commentator referred to Italians as gladiators, knowing that the game was in Rome?
Too much, probably.
Didn't go.
They love doing
And,
that.
and off the back of Gladiator 2 now as well. Just
Apparently, that was not great.
no, it's not great.
Bit of a flop, apparently.
I did
yeah.
read about the one headline I wrote, and this is how you know a movie's terrible, is that in one scene Denzel Washington almost bit his tongue off.
Oui.
Yeah. Clearly they need distractions from how terrible the movie is, because who cares? But anyway,
Biggest game of the weekend. England played France at Twickenham. A nail biter. A real classic. 26-25 to England.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for me because everybody is obviously saying, you know, England is on the up, and now, you know, this game proves it, that they've got something in them. Where we're talking about a 1 point difference, and if it had just been a kick, then I don't know, you know, then you're suddenly the losing team. Do all your arguments fly out the window for, oh, okay, our game plan worked, our players are good enough, our coaching was good enough? I don't feel that England won that game as much as France lost the game. So I don't see it as a massive positive for England in that sense.
Is that a little bit unfair, maybe, to England and Borthwick? England were in contention against all the top nations last year. They were a few points away from winning those games. And now that they do win them by a few points, we say, no, it's not good enough.
What I'm saying is that I don't think England is better than France. I think if you played 10 games against France, I think France would very clearly come out by 70% at least. That's what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, it just matters what the score was at the end of this game. And this game, England won. So well done for that. But in terms of like where I rank them, I don't think they're better than France.
I hear both of you in the sense that first of all, I was quite vocal about not thinking England had a chance. And I think for the first 20 minutes of the game, it really looked like it would be the case. I think France, for all their flair and everything they sort of tried throughout the game, I think their basics let them down. There was a lot of handling errors early on, 20 minutes. Within the first 20 to 25 minutes, I think I read a stat of 4 to 5 handling errors that would have led to direct tries. So that's a big thing to factor in. At the end of the day, England prevented those, whatever it is. I think a handling error can't only be seen in isolation, particularly the way how scrappy England are and how disruptive they are as a team. I think that's kind of what they look to do. And, you know, but at the end of the day, also, I said, I don't know if I can see this tactic working of England disrupting, holding on, defending, and then getting it across the line. And this time they did. So I think again, this is not really helping our conversation about now, but the reality is this, and this is what I think Maxi's trying to say and Klaus is trying to say at the same time, is this is a huge momentum starter for Borthwick, because this is the first time I think he shut up a lot of critics with the way he's playing rugby, because they've gotten the result, and now they're going to have to try and see if they can get it, because they've got a bona fide chance to win the Six Nations.
They do.
And I don't think any of us saw that coming, and I think you can kick on then. And at the end of the day, the England rugby machine is a big machine. They've got a great league. They've got great young players coming through. And so that's kind of this. I'm a little bit in between where you guys are at.
Yeah. I mean, they've only got Scotland, Italy, and Wales left. So
if they lose to Scotland, then we're back at square one, because then it all goes out the window.
I agree 100%.
Scotland's going to be a big game. It's in 2 weeks' time, so both of those teams are going to have time to prepare for it, more than they would have had to prepare for other teams. And the English have to go up north to Murrayfield. So,
do they?
Yeah, so it's, Murrayfield is a bit of a fortress, so they just got smashed by Ireland. But generally speaking, the Scots will really get themselves up for a game against England, especially at home.
Yeah, they don't really get themselves up for the game against Ireland as much. Ireland, I think, especially if you watch the game, it was, even though 32-18 doesn't sound like a sound beating, it was pretty one-sided.
I mean, the score just before halftime was something like, I can't remember it exactly, but it was something like 0 to Scotland and 17 to Ireland. And then I think 2 minutes before the end of the first half, Scotland managed to score a try, and within the first 5 minutes, 6 minutes of the second half, then managed to score a multitude of points through kicking and also, I think, a try. So managed to get within striking range of Ireland. But the big problem was that they had a head-on-head collision with Darcy Graham and Finn Russell. So a friendly fire. There was no ill intent from the opposition there, but
Two of their best players.
That had a massive impact on the team and on the way that they play the game. Obviously, Finn Russell pulling all the strings, and then Darcy Graham is an absolute nuisance for defenders.
Firecracker, as one would refer to a wing like that.
He's a hot pocket, that guy. Rocket pocket. Pocket rocket. There we go. I got there eventually.
We've learned that you can just say whatever you want. Stamp it on the bum.
Stamp it on the bum, man. Stamp it on the bum.
This might sound strange, but I think Scotland, having been to the stadium a couple times and sort of feeling the vibe there and everything, I think obviously they'll get their backs up for a game against England, which is great. But I don't know if the Scottish rugby can't maybe learn a thing or two, and this is going to sound weird, from Borthwick's approach to games, in the sense that I don't know if they need to maybe not show a little bit of a nastier, scrappier side to themselves. I love the Scottish team. I think on paper you would expect them to perform better, but sometimes I watch them and I'm like, this, it's a nice team to watch and they're great, but where's that extra edge? And you don't want to be the bad boy, but you want to win games. And I sometimes ask myself if they can't maybe get a little bit more out of it, if they're really maybe a little bit more disruptive in nature, a little bit, it's almost, unfortunately, a part of it's almost accepting that you maybe can't beat a team like Ireland going toe to toe with them. And particularly someone like Finn Russell, he's a phenomenal rugby player. So is Duan van der Merwe in his position, and Darcy Graham for that matter. But if you as a unit, you need to look at a way of beating Ireland, and man for man, you're just not going to beat them.
One of the commentators was saying that. He was saying if Scotland defended the way they were defending on their own try line in their own 5 meters, more up the field, it would have been a different game. Because up the field, they were allowing breakthroughs and stuff like that. And it's not that diehard sort of defense that they were putting up in their own 22 on their own try line. So yeah, maybe it is a sort of make sure your defense is one of the best in the world, and then if your playmakers play, it's fantastic.
The problem with Scotland I found in this game in particular was their attacking was not that. It was not varied. It was pretty one-dimensional. A lot of just one pass go into contact, one pass go into contact, and they just repeated that the entire time. I don't know if they were hoping for some sort of a gain line advantage off which they could then build an attack, but you've got guys like Finn Russell, you've got Hugh Jones, who's an incredible outside centre. Tuipulotu is not playing, but when he's in the team, he's also a really, really dangerous threat. You've got Darcy Graham, you've got Duan van der Merwe, you've got Kinghorn at the back, who's unreal. That guy, when he made his break, he was sprinting down the sideline. You've got Carl Steyn, all of these guys who are really, really like potent attackers, but then you don't utilize them. You're just using your forwards the whole time. And when they did go out the back and managed to get the ball out wide, they then actually started like putting Ireland under a bit of pressure. But they kept the field so narrow the whole time in the center that they just didn't even give themselves an opportunity to, or didn't even take an opportunity to try and run around the side.
Yeah. If Scotland finish 4th in this Six Nations, 4th or 5th, is there pressure on Townsend?
Yo.
Because that's very much sort of just treading water.
I think there should be. I think if you want to take Scottish rugby further, there should be, because I think it all goes hand in hand. I think if you've got such a talented group of players and you want to win things, you've got to find a way to do it. And there's got to be that ambition to want to do it. And if he does finish 5th, I think pressure should be on him. I think you should be looking at that group of players and going, hey man, this is not good enough. 4th or higher. And that's a prerequisite.
But fourth is seemingly also just sort of where you'd expect them to be they need to beat one of those other 3 sides, or they need to finish above one of the other 3 to make it, in my opinion, successful.
Yeah. I would say yes, there should be pressure on him as well, but I don't know if anybody would really want to take on Scotland.
The job, you mean?
The job, yeah. So they might just stick it out with Townsend.
Maybe who coaches the Glasgow Warriors?
That's Franco Smith, I think.
Well, he should be
the South African coach.
I think
he's phenomenal.
I think that would be a natural step for him. Also, within the context of South African rugby, maybe not the worst thing for us, because he's been touted to eventually take over from Rassie, and I wouldn't mind him getting some international experience coaching Scotland, and then possibly taking the job later on. So that would be, from a South African point of view, that would be quite attractive. And he did the job at the Warriors. So
yeah,
and there's like 3 or 4 South Africans in the team already. So
they're Scottish class.
No, they're not.
Also, if you watch the new Six Nations documentary, you can hear that Van der Merwe has got that classic Scottish.
I really love.
It's a really.
I really love my rugby.
Klaus and I were talking about it. If you've watched that new, what is it called? Full Contact. I don't understand why they insist on those scripted dialogues with the girlfriends, wives, and partners. They are so cringeworthy, and you can see that they're so scripted. How are you nervous for the game today?
That's not how I know you, honey.
Yeah, just leave that. No one needs to see that. I didn't see Max Verstappen's girlfriend ask him, "Have you learned how to drive?"
Yeah, I think
I would have liked to have seen her in the show, though.
I think there should be more. There should be more.
It made no sense.
There should be more like fly on the wall stuff. I think there should be less of this, as you said, scripted stuff, and I mean, it must be nice for the wives and the girlfriends to a bit of the fame.
I think Freddie Stewart's girlfriend was telling him about how she's now bought the right crystals for him to perform well.
For the right energy.
Cool, buddy.
Unless you're putting those crystals in your sock and you cutting an oak when he runs past you, they're not going to help.
No. I mean, maybe that's why he didn't get selected.
No. Okay, let's briefly touch on the Stormers Bulls game, just because it was such a nail biter. Bulls beat the Stormers 33-32. Very good finish to the game. I even had Klaus. I was on the train. Klaus had to video call me, and I had to watch it there. Very good win for the Bulls away from home. Because the Stormers, it was almost a must win for them to try and keep their top 8 hopes alive, and the Bulls came away winners.
Strange, very fighting words from Dobson after the game, saying, there goes our chance for the top 4, but I'm pretty sure we will easily make the top 8.
I'm not sure of their fixture list coming in. I know we play you guys. We play the Lions in Joburg up next, which I think will be another good game. But yeah, if the fixture list is easy, then maybe I'm talking out my ass here. Maybe we've got maybe our chances for top 8 are fine. But apparently there was a lot of wind at the stadium. Someone was saying, because the mistakes that both sides were making. The kicking was terrible. And there was so many knock-ons. I thought they would put soap on the ball.
The kicking was so tricky that even Willie Leroux didn't kick for balls.
What about Gelant?
Gelant also didn't kick for balls.
But it's crazy how that a game is so beset by handling errors and stuff still finishes 33-32.
Yeah.
Poor old Blomiki is having a big sob on the sidelines there. But I mean, he'll be all right.
Great advert for the game, as they say. Do you guys briefly want to touch on the rumored deal for SA Rugby?
Yeah. Should I talk us through it?
You know more about it than any of us.
So essentially, news came out today that the 3 leading franchises in South African rugby have come out and said that they want to buy a 20% stake of the commercial rights of the Springboks, similar to a deal with and those 3 franchises are the Stormers, the Bulls, and the Sharks, and they are keen to purchase 20%, structured similarly to the deal that was on the table from AGS, a way less amount. but through with the use of a lot of the same funds. So essentially, the people that were keen to get behind the AGS deal are keen to come through, and so essentially you're keeping it in the family, but the injection is still there. My concern a little bit though, it seems like a bit of a Trojan horse. Sending the three franchises in to kind of do the deal funded by the same money. A couple of concerns Klaus just mentioned off air as well is that, how much power does this give these three franchises? My biggest concern is, doesn't that sort of really create a little bit of a boys club between the three top franchises? What does it mean for people like the Lions or any of the other franchises for that matter? They're a little bit tricky. And I also worry a little bit that I worry why AGS have not gone away and why they've tried it this way. Because like I said, to me, it seems like a bit of a Trojan horse. And I think there's no question about it. Cash injection to the South African rugby would be amazing. But this seems a little bit too, it seems like they didn't get the deal they wanted the first way. And now they're trying a sort of, I wouldn't say underhanded way, but it seems a little bit political and a little bit, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's necessarily the best move for South African rugby.
Yeah. There's no doubt that you have to capitalize on the Springboks' success currently and their popularity. If you're not somehow reaping the financial rewards from this, then you're really missing a trick. But yeah, I think inevitably, regardless who you go with, when you sell a stake in SA Rugby, the way that I think those international deals work and that you've seen in the past, you are sort of giving away control a little bit, and people aren't giving money away for free. So even if they only buy 20% equity in it, what they're getting on the back end will definitely be more. If we're talking the $70 million that were rumored.
And they've got the foot in the door in terms of the franchises and the control over the franchises. So I don't know. I don't like the way it tastes and the way it looks, but we need them. Again, also, the problem is, you want a partner that's not looking to just take money out of the success of the Springboks. You want someone to grow and keep the Springboks competitive and grow the brand globally. Yeah. And I think that's a key. That's
and
a key
really grow SA
well.
Rugby, which I think the franchises, and especially if you look at the smaller franchises, those are the ones that need the financial support, that need the umbrella payments from the Springboks. Because I think the Springboks on its own, it's fine, but if you lose the strength below it seems like almost like up until Varsity Cup rugby is doing really well. It's really healthy. And then that bridge between that and the URC, all those clubs in the middle are sort of floating in like an abyss in a nowhere zone. You've got the Cheetahs talking about going to the what is it called? The Tri-Nations now? No, not the Tri-Nations. Super Rugby.
Yeah.
On their own. If they don't get good umbrella payments from this, those are the ones that are really at risk.
A little bit of also criticism, that I forgot to mention, is that with the vote for the original AGS deal, the Stormers weren't allowed to vote, or the Western Province Rugby, because they're in administration. Yeah. They circumvent that through this deal now because they put that deal on the table and they purchased it.
Good.
So that also for me just leaves a bit of taste in my mouth. And
why? They just didn't do well the last time with the money they got. Now they'll do much better.
Okay. Maybe they can pay for kicking lessons for Blommetjies and Mani Liebok with the money.
Should we go into what Klaus has called Futebal on this list?
Because my fingers move so fast over the keyboard, sometimes I just add in a couple extra there.
He's got the Portuguese classes there on Duolingo. Futebal. Anyway, FA Cup.
Should we start with the EFL Cup? Because that was first.
Oh, there was some EFL as well, yeah. Sorry, I'm not in it anymore, so.
So there were two teams that were playing in the playoffs. There were two fixtures in the playoffs. So the Arsenal versus Newcastle and then Tottenham versus Liverpool. There were two rounds, the home and away.
Yes.
Or leg one and leg two, however you would like to call it. Should we start with the Newcastle-Arsenal fixture?
Yeah. I think, Newcastle beat them 4-0 on aggregate, 2-0 away from home. That's a fantastic performance for Newcastle because Arsenal fielded their strongest team.
And Isak is an absolute monster. Yeah. I think he leaves. I don't see him staying there, which is sad for Newcastle. Just because I think the project's 2-3 years behind to kind of keep someone like Isak wherever he goes. If he can replicate the form, I mean, he's outshining every forward in the league at the moment. He is, and so complete as well. And manhandled Saliba as well. So, and again, hats off to Eddie Howe. Every time there's a little essence of doubt in whether he's the right guy to kind of keep building that project, he brings out results like this. And the fact if they win, if
they win a trophy,
if
then
they win a
it's-
trophy, then Eddie, I think, buys himself 3 years, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
It's a funny one for Arsenal because on the one hand it's another massive step back after they've tried to convince anyone that they're real and that they're title contenders and that they're real deal. But on the other hand, it'll probably benefit them being out of a cup like this, just because with the injuries that they've had, their squad depth isn't as big as what other clubs are enjoying. So being in one less trophy is probably good for them, because if Arsenal were to win the EFL Cup and nothing else, I don't think that would change people's opinion on Arteta not being a success.
I think the only thing, and we were talking about monkeys on the back earlier, there is a bit of a monkey emerging with Arteta not being able to show up when he really needs it. And sure, this is out of the context of the league, but that's where the sort of monkey sort of stems from. And sure, he won the FA Cup early on. I would argue they won the FA Cup early on in his tenure because the pressure was really off, because it was so early on in his time there. So that's the only thing where I say it could spill over to doubt in the league and going down to the end of the season, but time will tell.
And in the second game, Tottenham were leading 1-0 from the first leg, and then the two teams came to Anfield, and Liverpool roundly swept them away 4-0. Tottenham didn't have a single shot on target. They did hit the post once, but very dominant by Liverpool and very worrying for Tottenham, in combination with their FA Cup result, which we'll get to later. It just, I think, puts further frustration in Tottenham fans' hearts, and it's really sort of you could see how dejected someone like Son was afterwards, just because, like, you're nowhere. You're absolutely nowhere. And for like pundits afterwards, Jamie Carragher was saying it's Tottenham. They don't win big games. They don't show up for these big games. So it must be so disheartening to be a fan, because it's just.
And as you said, it is a segue into the FA Cup and them losing to Villa 2-1. Also with the cloud of Ange saying I usually win trophies in my second year, that's gone. It's gone. They're not winning anything this year, and the writing's on the wall. And I don't. The one thing that might save Ange is that I think it's so blatantly not the coach. That's the problem, and they've had the worst injury list I've seen. United was pretty bad last year. This is on another level. But I don't see Levy. I don't see Levy sticking it out with him. I think Levy prefers to get rid of the noise, in the sense of get rid of him, get someone new in, and let's start again.
So a lot of injuries are down to bad luck, but a few of them, and maybe more, are down to the way you play and the way you train and the way the players are looked after. Under Jurgen Klopp and the way we were playing Liverpool, we did have more injuries. Under Arne Slot, the new manager, injuries are a lot less. And even at his previous job at Feyenoord, he would go 95% of the season with his strongest squad. So there is a certain amount of responsibility that falls on Ange and maybe his staff on the injury list. But yeah, I don't even know where to start, because I feel sorry for them, but at the same time, it's to get that project back on track seems like it's a long
and
road.
they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. Yeah. I think they could get a manager in. The best possible thing that maybe could happen is they get a new manager bounce. They win 3 or 4 games in the Premier League in a row and are definitely safe. Then there's no questions about relegation anymore. And then cool, but I think
are they still in the Conference League or wherever they're playing?
they got knocked out, I think.
Okay, I'm not sure.
I think they got knocked out, yeah.
All right. Klaus, do you want to take us through some other FA Cup results?
Well, we had the mighty Plymouth.
Don't start with that one.
mighty Plymouth.
Wearing Plymouth green today as well. Look at that.
God.
Won their game 1-0 against. Just remind me who they were playing against.
They beat Liverpool. Plymouth is, I think, almost bottom of the championship currently.
They are actually bottom of the championship.
Liverpool did play their second string side, but you still shouldn't be losing 1-0 to Plymouth. It rounded off what was a very bad weekend sporting wise for me. So I think the less said about that, the better. Liverpool didn't. We weren't. It's not like even we. Sometimes you lose a game like that 1-0, and then you look at the stats, and Liverpool had 30 shots on target, and something. It wasn't that.
Big shout out to that Plymouth goalkeeper. He made 2 absolute humdinging saves in the last sort of stretch of the game to keep them in it. But yeah, interesting. I think in the bigger context of things for Liverpool, completely irrelevant. I mean, obviously the FA Cup is a very prestigious competition, but I think it's less of a distraction. The league is always the big carrot, and you're performing really well in the Champions League as well. So I think those are the two priority competitions. And for Plymouth, a nice story, first of all.
Great story.
And second of all, maybe this helps them. They just got a new manager in because they fired Wayne Rooney. Maybe this helps them kind of try and find some form and momentum to try and stay in the championship.
Yeah, for sure.
We shall be following that. The other two games.
Will you really, Klaus?
Well, you guys will be following it. No, I'll just write down the scores every week. The other game, as we just described or just explained, was Aston Villa versus Tottenham. It was 2-1 to Aston Villa. Then we had Leicester versus Man United. Something that Dominic surely got a couple of opinions about.
Yeah, terrible performance. Got really lucky. It was offside, and Harry Maguire's goal. I don't really have much to say about it. Like I said, terrible performance. We were played off the park for most of the game. And all I can say is that I just hope that this is some sort of heavenly sent situation that a little bit of luck maybe tries to turn the corner for us. But I see big problems for us moving ahead, to be honest. I don't see us really getting anywhere. But in our case, winning an FA Cup might be something to kind of take into next season. But there's big problems.
Surely something like this should be the biggest supporting argument for VAR, because that the United winning goal was offside, but there's no VAR in the FA Cup. And I've never understood fans who've said ditch VAR again because it's not working. I've always said I always used to feel so like robbed when those kind of decisions went against me. I don't think the way VAR is used in football now is the best. I think they can make many improvements, but the solution definitely isn't to drop it again.
Particularly with offside decisions, I think it's a no-brainer because offside is offside. And I think the mistakes that they initially made are, there's always tight decisions that could go either way. And when there's bitter fans involved, they just tend to have tinted glasses on. But in these games, even in the Plymouth game, Plymouth almost scored a second goal and he was miles offside.
Yeah.
And I think that's just such a blatant, but this is why people are pushing for this automatic offside system. And I think you'll see that, and it's way less costly than VAR. So I think maybe early on in the FA Cup, you might see it adopted a little bit earlier.
How's that system supposed to work?
I could not tell you, but it will tell you if it's offside or onside. It'll just work on its own.
You get a WhatsApp message on your
There
wrist.
is magic that happens, and then something happens on the screen.
Harry Potter.
You're a wizard, Harry. The last game that we had in the FA, or not the last game, but just one of the other ones that we had mentioned, or would like to mention, is the Chelsea versus Brighton game where Brighton beat Chelsea 2-1.
Yeah, some real worrying signs for Chelsea now, and the noise getting louder around the stadium because the drop-off since beginning of December has been enormous. They've fallen from grace. They were playing beautiful football. They were challenging for the league, and since then it's all just been downhill.
And they spent money in January again. I mean, albeit for sort of younger players, but I don't know because I don't know that Todd Burley and that ownership they're terrible people, and I think he'll look at it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're out of everything.
He'll just change the manager again.
Come April, if they're not winning anything, I wouldn't be surprised if he says agree to part ways and they try again in the summer with someone else.
Such a pity. But can't say I ever feel sorry for anything that bad that happens to Chelsea.
And funny enough, Abramovich chants heard from the stands during that game, which just says enough about that fan base.
Yeah, good for Brighton though. A team that I think shouldn't get too carried away with themselves, but just is showing good signs of just being well run. Even though maybe results haven't gone their way.
Heard an interesting story that Huertzler, the coach, after their 7-0 loss to Nottingham, actually went into the dressing room and physically took his sheet that he gave to all his players with the tactics as a pre-game situation, and he just lit it on fire in the dressing room, and he said,
"That one's on me.
Line in the sand, let's go." And hey, it's a good result for them.
Yeah.
I think we're going to move on from football, move over to some cricket.
Wrap it up.
In the cricket, currently, there's all sorts of different tournaments being played, one-off tournaments.
Little nothing.
Little friendlies.
We called it nothing because we just lost to New Zealand.
Yeah,
but it didn't matter.
By 8 runs. Regardless, what we would like to talk about is SA20, and we had the playoffs this weekend. Dominic, would you like to just explain to the audience how the playoffs work?
So you have the I think it's 6 teams in the league. The top 2 sides play each other for a direct route into the final, and then if the team that loses in that game then goes on to play the third team to get
the winner
between
3 and 4.
winner of 3 and 4 to then get a second chance at going into the final. The final ended up being Sunrisers versus My Cape Town. I mean, we can go through the playoff games, but I think
In the end, I think the favorites won.
The best-
best team won.
Yeah.
I think
And
another great
convincingly.
convincingly.
Yeah.
Another great advert for the SA20 though.
It's a little bit unfortunate because I think seeing the Sunrisers go back to back to back. How many times did I say that? 3 times. Back to back to back. Yeah. Would have been quite entertaining. I'm talking about seasons, not the games. Yeah. But you can't argue with
Sometimes dynasties end.
you can't argue with My Cape Town and their form.
Ask Patrick Mahomes.
that's true. Also, I don't know. Yeah, Nelson Mandela Bay. Who cares? Like, I think it's cool. I think My Cape Town. I think the coolest thing out of this tournament is the amount of young South African players that have shown what they've got. And I think that's always been a criticism for CSA, bleeding young players. How do we bleed them? Brevis finally, after being the best 18-year-old in the world, so to speak, 3 years ago, finally really showing what he's got, and hopefully they can translate that into the national team.
Yeah.
Besides Brevis, any other players that really stood out for you in this tournament?
There's Luandre Pretorius for the Paarl Royals. He's 18 years old. Just finished a matric with Mapaka as well. Great player. Rashid Khan is unreal.
How many distinctions did he get?
I don't know.
1. PE.
Life skills. And then I think Rashid Khan is just an absolute phenom.
You know, I didn't get a distinction for life orientation.
That's neither did I. Did you? No, there you go. I came up with a fantastic plan. It was like a whole HIV thing, football themed, because we were Matric 2010. I said, give HIV the red card. It was a whole campaign I came up with because that's what we had to do. Apparently not good enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we needed some VAR there for my plan. Anyway, but we digress.
I think we've turned out all right for having not
Exactly,
aced life orientation.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about life orientation?
Because of Luandre.
People always joke that life orientation is like a given A, and I didn't think so. It didn't come naturally to me, orientating my life.
Okay. Let's continue with your. Are you done with the players that you?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I wanted to say is Rashid Khan is insane. He captained My Cape Town team. He is already the highest ever wicket taker in T20 cricket. Across franchise and international T20 cricket, and he's only 26 years old. So, and he's a spinner. So let's be honest. I was saying to Maxi recently, I think I'll retire before he does, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. The Champions Cup is coming up in February, being hosted in Pakistan. There was a lot of rumors or stories floating that the stadiums wouldn't be ready. A lot of shocking photos. The president of the ICC resigned. I don't know if that was related, or the CEO of the ICC. But it seemingly all is ready to go ahead. And I think it's now end of February that's starting.
Isn't that the case for all big tournaments? The stadiums are not ready. They're not going to be done in time. And then miraculously, Harry Potter pops up again and finishes them.
There's a reason that a lot of tournaments tend to be hosted in first world countries. Because with existing infrastructure, because I think a lot of the time there's just these grand plans that are presented to try and win the bids to host these tournaments. Particularly with Pakistan, they've been sort of in international cricketing exile as a host nation for a long time, and they've been slowly bled back. I think over the last 2 years they've been hosting cricket again, which is amazing because Pakistan has always been a very historic place to go, and also they're a big test nation, so they should be hosting games on home soil. So I think it was a culmination of all these kind of a little bit of a snowball effect of all these issues.
Is India going to those games?
There was big rumors that they weren't going to play. I haven't heard again, but
okay.
I don't think there's no way they're not going.
Yeah,
I think we would have heard about it.
I'm currently watching the India versus Pakistan documentary on Netflix, and they talk about how as long as the rivalries existed, just because of the way those two countries were formed, there's always been some conflict. And when the war was happening, well, I don't even know if it was a war, but there was an uprising, and India went to Pakistan as for the first time, I don't know, in like 20 years, there was also massive security concerns, and it actually turned out to be quite a positive tour and a positive one for the Indian team. And I hope this is the same, because I think when those two face each other, it's massive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's also that, you know, I would argue that I don't think there's two nations that love cricket more than those two either.
No.
I think so. It's like Brazil playing Argentina at football. That passion is just next level. So I think you would love to see it. Champions Trophy has always been a weird one for me though, because it's not a World Cup, but
but we'd take it if we won it.
No, 100%. We finally win something.
Have we ever won it?
No. We've never won anything. We've never won anything. Yeah.
Been there or thereabouts.
Yeah. Should we move on to a little bit of golf?
We can talk about some golf.
The waste management.
The waste management. The most raucous golf tournament ever.
Seemed a little bit milder this year.
I think they did well to tone it down.
But no less passion. I watched quite a bit of the 16th hole feed on one of the days. A lot of fun. Some guys. It's so interesting to see some guys kind of like really like thriving in it and relishing it, and a lot of the other guys, you can see for them, it's kind of like, I'm just trying to do my work here. So quite cool to see that. But
for anybody who hasn't seen the waste management tour, it's essentially the most stadium like golf course that you can get.
I think it's 23,000 people, I think, around just one golf hole.
Just one hole.
Yeah.
They've enclosed one par 3 with stands on all side, and it's known as the party stop on the PGA Tour. It's sort of gained that reputation because people would just get motherlessly drunk, and it escalated year on year. To I think last year, where if I think a player made a hole in one and the whole par 3 was just drenched in beer and in cups. And they've dialed back, and it's a fun tournament. Thomas Detry won by quite a margin.
The first ever Belgian, I think, to win on the PGA Tour.
Really?
Just fantastic. Also not a little bit out of nowhere, very much out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He's someone that about 10 years ago had his breakthrough season and kind of struggled for a few years. So he won very early on in his career, struggled for a few years, and last year came back and got his PGA Tour card through finishing in the top 10 of the road to Dubai. So amazing result. And I mean, that's life-changing, I think. You know, you've got 2 years in exemption now on the PGA Tour. The money is insane. So
it's a Ryder Cup year.
Exactly. And we'd love to see it.
Really a Ryder Cup year again?
It's a Ryder Cup year.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Comes thick and fast.
Going to Bethpage Black. It's going to be hectic. In other golfing news, I think we just have to mention Jordan Spieth, who made a comeback and who's now, the Americans are very excited because he's sort of been in the wilderness of golf for a long time and made quite a good comeback day 2 and 3.
Yeah, made it back-to-back eagles on the one day.
Yeah.
It was really good.
So I guess it is nice to see him do well because he is a good character for golf. So everything sort of in the beginning of the year always leads up to the Masters and people talking about who's in contention there. Scotty Scheffler struggled a little bit.
Also a bit of signs of some serious anger. I saw him
he
take it out on
moved
his back. And I think that's going to be...
We call that the Dominic Neal.
Yeah, that's true. And he's going to... this is going to be the interesting phase now, because I think if you're cruising the way he cruised, I think it's very impressive, obviously, his numbers from last season, but very intrigued to see how quickly he gets back into... Because unfortunately, he set himself his own...
Yeah.
He's got his own seeding now, and that's quite tricky. So let's see how that sort of pans out.
Quick mention on the Live Golf tournament in Riyadh. Billions and billions spent, and I think on day one their average viewership totaled at 12,000, which is worrying signs.
And really just killing it.
If you Live Golf, because that's fuck all.
Yeah, and it's, in Saudi Arabia, sort of the signature event. Well, I mean, well done to all the dudes that did move over and are winning. I mean, who won? The Polish player won, Meronk, and I think he won $4.5 million. So
I think if you're thinking about it on a money side for the golfers, I would have done it as well for sure. But I think there's a finite amount of people who want to watch golf, and especially with the TGL now also starting, you're really competing for a small viewership in total. And when something like the waste management is on, then that will probably gain more viewership than there'll be live events that are more attractive than the corresponding PGA event. But are we really growing the game if it's not the TGL?
Crazy thing is, if you consider that it's only 12,000 people watching on average over the 4 days, right?
No, this was just day one.
Oh, day one. And you compare it to something like YouTube golfers.
Yeah.
I mean, they pulling those numbers within an hour.
But that's probably why they get someone like Rick Shields now. YouTube. I mean, he's the most successful YouTube golfer ever, subscriber wise.
Interestingly, he after he announced that deal, he lost subscribers.
Yeah.
He seemed quite shocked. He did like a reaction video, and he genuinely seemed shocked. I think I think a lot of across the board with sport and like where we're at, like just globally, I think the people's relationships to Saudi Arabia is just so conflicted.
Yeah.
I don't care. I think if it's a cool sporting event, it's a cool sporting event. I mean, I think everything else is relatively irrelevant to me, But I think that's also very interesting to watch sort of in the background, aside from the sport, the people's relationship to the Saudis being so influential and everything.
And I think you always know that when someone like a golf YouTuber signs for a brand like this, the content is going to become very sports washy. But it becomes the same when you like. I remember back in the day, he used to not want to sign a club contract, a manufacturing contract with like Titleist or TaylorMade or anything like that, because he prided himself on his reviews of clubs and stuff like that, and he never wanted there to be an underlying
conflict of interest.
of interest. And now when someone is signed to Live Golf, it's going to be super positive about it, and it's going to be. And he was always quite neutral and quite good about it, so I can see that part of his viewership, his fans leaving. I'm not such a big fan of his content anymore. I used to be more, but I do like the more laissez-faire stuff that someone like Bob Does Sports puts out.
Yeah,
people are just getting fucked up
and eating a lot of tacos.
I think, but you called it as a business move for him. His numbers were declining anyway. He'd sort of plateaued, and for him, it's just like cash in, cash out, let's go. Like for sure. And apparently, what I've read about the deal is that he's kept complete ownership of the channels and everything. So it's not even, so that's really interesting. So essentially, he's getting someone else to pay for all the productions, and he continues to own his channel, and then some. So good move for him.
Yeah. Moving on, UFC.
Talk about the fisticuffs.
I mean, I didn't watch. I always just see Twitter videos, and I saw. Drickus fucking up Strickland's nose.
Yeah, well, it wasn't one on unanimous decision. It wasn't one on a technical knockout or a knockout, which is what Drickus has stated multiple times. Is that's what he's going for. He doesn't want there to be any sort of wavering doubt on did he not hit him enough times. But Strickland actually came out after the fight and said, I've got to go take my hat off to the guy. He's done incredibly well. He's a tough guy to fight against. There's a lot more colorful language in there.
He's fucking crazy, that oak.
He is crazy.
He's not well.
And then he also said
he's not as crazy as that one oak. Did you see that one UFC fighter's video about saying something about Hitler not being a bad guy and stuff like that, and how he's done his own research? And
these oaks have been hit in the head too often.
Yes,
100%, bro.
Who's that? Who's the guy who runs the UFC?
Dana White.
Dana White had to come out and be like, "Listen, we can't stop him from saying that because it's free speech." But that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But it was hectic. The video is fucking wild. Anyways,
Strickland went on to say, Drickus broke my nose in so many places. I think it was 6 spots. That it's going to be easy to reset. So I think that's the biggest compliment you got to get out of the guy.
You have to be some other kind of mental to get hit that hard, and your nose is broken, and you're still in the fight, and you're busy. He was busy trying to reset it.
Yeah,
you must be.
It's a bit like when Klaus fell on his nose and just went.
It's for us tough guys, you know.
And reset it completely wrong.
But anyway, look,
that is correct.
Look, the Drickus train keeps rolling, and it's really looking unbelievable. He's already got the next fight plan with someone from Dagestan, which is hectic. Those guys are a different story.
Around.
It's also going to be a different type of fighting. I mean, I'm by no means claiming to know anything about fighting, but from the little bit that I did read and saw in interviews, Drickus is a wrestler. First and foremost, he's not really a punching kind of guy or a boxing kind of guy, where Strickland is. And through all the comments that were going back and forth before the fight, I think Strickland was trying to bait him into thinking like, okay, he's going to wrestle. But the whole, besides, I think 2 attempts at a takedown and 1 successful takedown, The rest of it was all standing. So interesting that Drickus could beat him at his own game. I thought that was my number one takeaway from the fight, besides the broken nose.
Yeah, I saw a comment online of someone saying we've now got to accept that Strickland isn't the person that he says he is, and he isn't the person that some people want him to be. He's just not that fighter. Like he's a good fighter, but he's just not. People put him on a pedestal. He puts himself in that category of being the best, and he's just not. And some people argue that he maybe shouldn't even had that title fight. So
It's good for the brand, I think. I think for UFC, he's loud. He says a lot of crazy
American.
shit, and he just gets on with it. So
Same like Adesanya. He's also a nutter.
Should we round out just mentioning the Super Bowl last night? The Eagles actually thumped the Kansas City Chiefs.
Complete domination.
40-22. I lost money. Not a lot, but I had the Kansas City Chiefs winning, and just because like you never bet against Mahomes, but he was soundly beaten. The Eagles didn't have a good regular season, or not a stellar regular season, but really came alive in the playoffs, and good on them.
Mahomes really struggled. Hey, the defensive side from the Eagles, they really put pressure on him, and he didn't get many of his throws away.
I didn't watch any of the game, and I've only watched portions of the halftime show. But everyone was just saying how talented Jalen Hurts is, and people. Pretty much everyone was saying his day was going to come, and I think maybe for some people they feel like this is a year too early for the Eagles. But they're a huge franchise, and Jalen Hurts he's one of the top picks of the recent times.
Saquon Barkley also had a fantastic season.
Exactly. Yeah, so there's a good they have the right puzzle pieces. It's always, I don't know much about football, but it also seems like there's about 4 or 5 puzzle pieces that really need to fit, and if you have those puzzle pieces, the rest of the squad, it being as big as it is, can kind of get you over the line, and it seems like the Philadelphia
Did you play
Eagles.
fantasy this year?
Yes.
And how did you finish?
Second last. So
Not last.
Not last.
Didn't get the wooden spoon.
Still cost me €40 though. I think I'm next year.
Great time.
Next
that
year,
sounds like
I'm
my
not-
sports betting adventure.
I think the three of us should stop.
No,
betting.
next year, I'm not gonna join the fantasy league, but I will just drive my car through the streets of Berlin and just throw €40 out the window at some point, just so I have that same feeling.
Just let me know which street it is, and I'll go stand that way.
Fiona reached out to me and asked me if I have a sports betting problem. I think just to clarify to everyone, I do bet now and then, but the amounts are like minuscule. It's like €2, €5, and I never go more than €20 a month. So I'm out for this month. I was going to win a lot of money on Liverpool winning the quadruple and a few other combinations, but alas,
Not to be.
seemingly it's just all random.
Rigged.
One thing that you are currently winning is our top 5 tournament that
Yes,
we've
I
got
am.
going on.
Another one in the books.
Another win for Dominic, another L for Dominic. Another W for Maxi, and another L for Dominic and myself.
Yes.
Last week we did the best or top 5 documentaries, sports documentaries of all time. This week we have moved over to something more architectural, and we'll be talking about the top 5 iconic
Stadium bathrooms.
stadium bathrooms.
Top 5 most iconic sports stadiums.
Correct.
And I think I'm gonna just go ahead and assume that we're focusing on rugby, cricket, and football.
No, it can be anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can take whatever
I've got
you
a
want.
list, and we'll see how this goes,
You
because
can
I'm
take
pretty sure I'm going.
Juventus Stadium from 2020.
It looks quite nice, actually. I looked at it.
I'm actually not going to go first because I'm not sure if there's one clear number one. I'm going to go third.
All right.
So Klaus
Klaus.
finished second, so I assume you want to go first?
Oh, I feel like I have to.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
strange if you went
Piggy in the
second.
Schmiddle here.
I will go first. I think in terms of football, I think it's one of the more interesting stadiums from a design perspective and from like people really knowing is Wembley Stadium.
Oh, shit.
You know, I think it's pretty iconic from like not necessarily from the games that are played there, but from the architectural visual perspective.
So the old Wembley had a lot of history. The new one,
Not so much.
I've been to it twice and I'm not the biggest fan.
You're not sold.
Yeah. but you know, you do you.
I am going with. We said stadiums and arenas, correct?
What's the difference?
arenas with a closed roof.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
fine.
Yeah. I'm going for Madison Square Garden at number one.
Damn it.
And just because of the variety of, I mean, they play basketball there. Some of the biggest fights in history
Nice.
have been there. They do concerts there.
Ice hockey.
What a venue. So,
I'm gonna go Wimbledon 1,
mhm.
and I'm gonna go Eden Gardens in Kolkata.
I have that on
cricket
my.
stadium. That's massive.
That's on my bucket list as well,
Yeah.
for sure, to watch some cricket there. Nice.
Back to you, Dom.
Back to me. I'm going to go with the Olympic Stadium in Berlin. And
Really?
the reason for that is the historic element to it.
Yeah.
But also headbutt Zidane in the 2006
World Cup.
World Cup
Yeah.
final. Also, where Usain Bolt ran the 958,
Yeah.
which is pretty crazy.
Custer also ran
Yeah.
a record there.
Exactly.
Terrible,
Also, where
terrible
Hertha
place to
continues
watch.
to lose.
Terrible place to watch football, though.
Yeah, not the best, but we still go, and we need to plan that, by the way. But
Iconic.
yes. And I like the blue track, also unique.
Fair enough.
Klaus, next two.
Damn. In that case, I'm going to go with the home of rugby, Twickenham Stadium. Obviously, just the home of rugby. What more am I going to say? Quite historic in that regard. And then I'm going to go with the MCG Cricket Grounds in Melbourne.
Melbourne Cricket Ground is fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
it's a good shot.
that would be on my bucket list as well.
Yeah.
What is it? 90,000?
Something like that, yeah.
That's crazy. And they regularly sell out test matches, which is amazing.
Is it me? No, it's you. Yeah, it's me.
It's you.
I will go with next. This is where it starts to get interesting. I'm going to go with Soccer City, only because obviously our personal connection to it. I love the design of the stadium, but also it's one of those stadiums. I just see it and I hear of Vuvuzela, and I feel like that's iconic. Like I'm transported back to that World Cup time, and I just think it's such it's also the biggest stadium in Africa.
Is it falling apart or are they keeping it?
Apparently, it's still in good nick. Yeah, they regularly host sort of the Soweto Derby and concerts there and stuff. So it's not a white elephant yet.
Right.
No, Robbie Williams performed there like 3 weeks ago, and people were saying it was looking good. The only problem is
What was that one event
getting
there?
to and from
Yeah.
it is just
What was that
horrible.
one event there where like
That was that sort of
people were being robbed? Like
that sort of modern Live Aid thing. That whole thing. And
People were just
they were just sitting ducks.
people couldn't get Ubers. They
Yeah.
were just being like robbed at knife point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But says nothing about the stadium. It's a great stadium, people. Great, iconic stadium.
Not a good park and ride system. Somewhere else where you can get stabbed if you're supporting the wrong team. La Bombonera,
That's a good one. It's on my list
Buenos
as well.
Aires. Boca Juniors plays there. Even the build of that stadium's iconic because it's got like one completely flat side.
When they jump up and down or so, they've
Yes.
got some suspension on those stands.
Yeah. I don't know if it's that safe. But that's iconic. And I'm going to take Newlands Cricket Ground as my fourth one. I think that's got one of the most beautiful backdrops in the world with Table Mountain. And in general, it's got a nice mix of seated and grass stadium.
It's a good one.
We were just there a couple of weeks ago. It was very
That's true.
nice.
That's true. It's me next, correct?
Correct.
I would go with Estadio Azteca.
Very good.
Biggest stadium in the world, I think, still to this day. Massive. I think it's got over 105,000 seats.
Biggest football stadium.
But definitely
yeah.
biggest football stadium. But it's going to be trumped by the stadium they're building in Morocco now for the next World Cup that they're
Really?
hosting. Yeah,
Okay.
125,000.
Oh, wow.
Which is
When you hear those numbers and then you hear like the amount of stadiums in like college football in America
yeah,
that have like over 100,000,
Yeah,
you
it's
just
crazy.
think to yourself, that sport in that country is on a different level.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just no one else around the world plays it. All right, Klaus.
So it's me with the last pick, right?
Well, your last pick, yeah. I've
No.
still got one.
I went first. So it's you now.
Hey?
You should have 2 picks.
I did. I had
You've got 2 picks.
La
2 picks.
Bombonera and yeah, I went 2. Now I went 2
Oh,
again.
sorry. So do I have 2 picks now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, we got that.
Hey, we've got this on lockdown, people. Just a test.
between two. I'm going to go with Allianz Arena in Munich. I think it's during the 2006. I
Gone
think.
very football heavy here. Surprising.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of rugby that you've left out.
Well, yeah, I did think about one of them. Anyway, I've gone with this now. I've said it.
If Ellis Park could light up outside, you'd have taken it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he might still pick it.
I'm a fucking idiot, but I'm not picking Ellis Park on the list of the 5 most iconic football stadiums in the world. I mean, stadiums in the world.
Okay, you guys would need to tell me if this is going to pass or not. But in history, this is the most iconic stadium in the world, and that's the Colosseum.
Yeah, I'll take it, bro.
You can take it.
It's probably going to.
No, you can take
It's
it.
probably going to cause me to lose.
No, I mean,
but I think
it's very outside the box.
if we're talking about iconic stadiums, I don't know if there's anything more iconic than that.
I think if this YouTube channel were going out on stone tablets, then I think you would have a chance. But
Says the guy who hasn't gotten a single point.
this is true.
And before we went on air, said it's because he's too intellectual.
Exactly.
Dom says he doesn't win because he's too intellectual.
And none of our followers can follow.
Yeah, yeah. But that doesn't stop you from voting for me this time. You can go up in the echelons of intellectuality. And is it my turn now? Yes, it is.
You should have just picked France for the Tour de France as a stadium. Just the entire country.
The whole route.
I'm going to go for Bird's Nest Stadium in Beijing. Also where, in my opinion, Bolt ran the even more impressive record of his 200 meter. And that was sort of the coming of age for Bolt. So
Was that in 1919?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, exactly. Genau, exactly. So that's my final one.
Jesus, I'm a little bit torn here on the last one. I've gone very cricket heavy, so I don't think I can take cricket again. No one took Lords, right?
No,
so
it's a good one. We're also going there.
We're also going there. I'm going to take one I've been to. I'm going to take the San Siro.
Yeah.
Inter and AC Milan play there. When you're there, you can feel like how old the stadium is and how much history is there. They are building a new one, I think, for Inter to play.
Unfortunately, they're going to tear it down. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's amazing, and the atmosphere in there is insane.
Super unique design as well with the 4 towers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very imposing from the outside and the inside. So very cool. A lot of ones that got left out there. I didn't take Anfield, which I think is
Anfield, Old Trafford was also.
It's just the
Old
problem
Trafford
with
just falling apart. You might as well
the
take.
problem with that is that like you're alienating certain people. You know,
Yeah,
I
New
was-
Camp I think was a good one.
Roland Garros is also like
Roland Garros. Yeah.
I think Cape Town Stadium, the rugby stadium, is
Very
quite
nice.
iconic. And I mean, in every single photo you see of Cape Town, it's literally smack bang in the front.
Do you guys want to run me through your list there?
yes.
Gotta
Well,
try
I
and
might
figure
not
out
be able
what
to
mine
give it
is.
to you chronologically, but
Cool.
That's
I'll give mine. Number 1, Madison Square Garden. Number 2, Olympic Stadium, Berlin. Number 3, Soccer City. Number 4, Estadio Azteca, and then number 5 is the Bird's Nest Stadium in Beijing.
for me it was Wembley Stadium. Then I think I went Twickenham, MCG Cricket Grounds, the Allianz Arena, and then the Coliseum.
I have no idea what I've picked. I picked
We have to play this back.
I picked Eden Gardens. Then I picked Wimbledon. Then I think I picked La Bombonera. Then I went Newlands, and I finished it off with
Zero.
San Siro. Got it right. Fantastic.
Well done.
I'm going to kick us off with Players of the Week. I know we're supposed to pick professionals, but just this one time, I'd like just to make a exception. Player of the Week was me.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I know
Yesterday.
exactly what he's going to say.
Hungover.
The toughest day of my life.
Hungover is all hell. Played golf yesterday, started the first 3 holes, still drunk, still having a good time. Then the drunkenness faded and then the hangover took over. And on the 11th tee box, I violently threw up, projectile vomited.
Vomited.
And then I made birdie on that hole. I almost drove the green and 2-putted. So
From which tees were we essentially playing?
don't fucking matter.
The ladies' tees.
Yeah, but I did hit an amazing drive.
That being said, it was frozen and it was like
No, it wasn't frozen then anymore.
no. I'm saying like generally the course was frozen and it was like playing on a car park to try and get your ball to stop on the green was near impossible.
Yeah, you had to pitch
So-
it like you had to land it like 20 meters in front of the green.
It was a
So yes, the yardage was shorter.
it was a
but
true test of golf, as they say.
It was fucking freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my play of the week. Actually, no, my play of the week does go to the entire Plymouth team. They beat the Champions League leaders. For them to do that, where they are currently, is a fantastic performance. And it's what they say, the romance of the FA Cup.
him and humility is fucking weird. It's very strange.
It's all over the place.
Pandering.
You just
Pandering to
sent
the
us on a
audience.
real trip there from complete egotistical self-praise to humility.
I'll let you decide which one of those I really think is the play of the week.
Oh God.
My player of the week has got to go to my Cape Town. The way that they just completely dominated not only the playoffs but also the entire tournament, I thought was very impressive. Dominic mentioned a couple names earlier on of sort of players of the tournament. I think if you look at the stats, top batsmen and top bowlers of the entire tournament, there's like at least 3 on each side
Yeah.
that are from my Cape Town, you know, with your Rickletons, your Corbin Bosches, your and so on and so on. Yeah. So I think they deserve
Dominant.
an extra hats off.
They deserve this recognition from you, which is
Yeah.
something that they were yearning for.
And I think they really appreciate it.
Now their season will be seen as complete.
Yes. Exactly.
My as it so often is golf related and from the DP World Tour, goes out to Lee Hao Tong, who won the Qatar Masters. I've got a little bit. The guy, there's so many good compilations of. He's one of us. He's similar to Tyrrell Hatton without the anger, but the way he speaks to the ball, his complete joy at winning that tournament. He burst out into tears. His backstory is that about 4 or 5 years ago, he also burst onto the scene, did really well, but he almost quit golf after 10 months without making a cut. Almost quit golf. Then came back to win the BMW Championship, cried like a baby. And then now he's gone on a little bit of a lean streak again, and now he wins this tournament again and cries like a baby again. So it's really nice to just see guys. Golfers can sometimes be so mechanical. It's nice to see guys that are so human and
A little bit of emotion.
and a little bit of emotion. So
Nice.
Is he Korean or
he is Chinese.
Chinese? Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Do you know who we missed out in that play of the week? Who definitely also deserves a shout out? Montoya. Montoya, por favor. If you haven't
Lord have mercy.
if you haven't Googled that, I think one of the greatest reality TV show performances I've ever
It is
seen.
unbelievable.
It has all the drama, all the feels.
For a bit of context, it's the Spanish Temptation Island.
Oh God.
It's not safe for work, and it's also not safe for kids. So
No.
yeah.
Jesus. But it did really, for the first time in a long time, put me onto I think this is something that I could watch because it's so overplayed,
It also
the drama.
just broke the internet. Like everything is like Montoya, por favor.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Do yourselves a favor, watch the clip. The essence of what happens is not funny, but the the drama of it is.
I hope Montoya's okay.
I hope he's okay. So that stuff can break you.
There you
Right.
have it.
We'll see you again next week, I think.
Yeah, that's what.
Wir haben ja sonst nichts vor.
That's
I hope we see each other next week.
kind of what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going skiing this weekend.
Oh, nice.
So hopefully I don't come back in a cast.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have snow.
No, there's going to be plenty of snow.
Yeah.
The
All right.
Snow is forecasted. So
Nice, bro.
what's happened now?
Okay.
Good.
Lovely. To the rest of you, thank you for tuning in. We might try something different these days. We might break up the videos into small segments.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll get your weekly sports feedback again next week.
Yeah. Arrivederci.
Thanks for watching.
Tot ziens.
Bench Opinions. 3 idiots with amateur analysis.